My foster mom threatened to hurt my friends and stole my siblings, so I broke free and got her locked up. 1 year later, she's pretending she's the victim, demanding I testify on her behalf, but I'm ready to burn her world down again. Growing up in an abusive foster home meant I learned to be the type who shrinks into corners during arguments, because I knew if I spoke up, I'd be treated exactly like my older foster sister, Holly. Whenever our foster mom tormented us, I'd stay quiet. But Holly had this defiant streak in her that made me feel like there was hope for us. When our mother, I'll call her Reagan, insulted or laid hands on Holly, Holly snapped back instantly. I always admired her courage, but it terrified me, because after every one of Holly's rebellions, Reagan would explode, confiscating Holly's things, taking away dinner, or making her clean the entire house until dawn. Then came the inspection day. I remember it clearly because Holly was pacing all morning, acting nervous. When the social worker, Ms. Winters, arrived, she asked if we were happy and safe. I gave my rehearsed yes, exactly like Reagan told me to avoid punishment. But Holly, being Holly, did the exact opposite of what Reagan told her. She spilled everything about Reagan's rules, the insults and the punishments. Her voice shook, but stayed strong. I saw Reagan's face twisting like a pretzel. She was so angry, but she had to stay silent. Meanwhile, I shrank into the couch, mouthing silently for Holly to stop, because I knew I'd likely end tonight with another scar on my back because of her. But then, as if my fears couldn't get worse, Mrs. Winters' response was like a slap to the face. She laughed lightly and told Holly, "You're so emotional, teenagers always exaggerate." It was so shocking I thought she was related to Reagan or something. Either way, after she left, the house went quiet. It was that terrifying silence when you know a storm is coming. Surprisingly, Reagan didn't yell at Holly at first. Instead, she punished her quietly. She took Holly's phone, locked away her favorite books, and started giving her impossible chores. Whenever Reagan found a speck of dirt, she'd call all of us over, all 4 of the foster kids, point at Holly and say, "See? She can't do anything right." Slowly, everyone started avoiding Holly completely, knowing if we associated with her, we'd be in trouble too. After weeks of this, Holly stopped fighting. She'd walk past us without even looking, her shoulders slumped like a ghost drifting through the hallways. Seeing her like that broke my heart, but I stayed silent. I hated myself for it, but I was terrified of ending up in her shoes. Then suddenly, Holly got transferred out. Seemingly out of nowhere, a caseworker showed up and took her away without even letting us say goodbye. When I mustered up the courage to ask about it, Reagan told everyone Holly was trouble, and we were better off without her. I felt a slight glimmer of hope. Maybe Reagan would be nicer to us now. But it turns out with Holly gone, I became Reagan's new favorite target. It started small. Every dish I washed wasn't clean enough. Every time I spoke, I was being disrespectful. One night, she dumped all my clothes from my moldy closet onto the kitchen floor because they were crumpled, and yelled that I was a lazy, ungrateful brat. I wanted to defend myself, but all I did was stand there silently, picking up my scattered shirts. Eventually, the other foster kids, Marcus, Zoe, and Jasmine, distanced themselves from me, afraid they'd get dragged into my trouble. And for the first time, I understood exactly how Holly had felt. Then one afternoon at school, my friend Bailey gave me a burner phone with Holly's number saved. She said Holly was desperate to talk to me. That night, I hid in the bathroom and dialed. Hearing Holly's voice was like finally taking a breath after holding it underwater. She sounded calmer, healthier, happier. She told me her new foster mom, Elaine, treated her well. When I described my situation, Holly begged me to document everything, take photos, and speak up to social services. For a moment, listening to Holly, I felt brave enough to try. I snapped a few pictures of bruises from chores, typed out a detailed note about everything Reagan had done, and hid it carefully. Holly arranged a meeting with Ms. Patel, a different social worker who had helped get her out. I was finally ready to be free, until Reagan burst into my room, holding the burner phone with all the evidence on it, her face contorted with rage, eyes bulging as she scrolled through the photos. "You ungrateful little liar," she hissed, her fingers digging into my arm. "After everything I've done for you." I tried to pull away, but her grip tightened. "Please," I whispered. "You're hurting me." Reagan's laugh was cold as winter. "Hurting you? I'll show you what hurt feels like." She dragged me downstairs where Marcus, Zoe, and Jasmine sat frozen at the dinner table. "Look what our little snitch was planning," Reagan announced, waving the phone. "Trying to get us all separated." The younger kids avoided my eyes. Only Marcus, 13, and starting to show Holly's defiance, dared to glance at me with something like sympathy. Reagan locked me in the basement that night, a damp concrete space that smelled of mildew and old paint. I huddled in the corner, shivering without a blanket, wondering if Holly had felt this same despair before Ms. Patel rescued her. Morning came with the click of the lock. Reagan stood in the doorway, her smile eerily calm. "Ms. Patel called. Wants to meet with you today. Isn't that interesting?" My heart leapt despite everything. Holly had come through. "Get cleaned up," Reagan ordered. "And remember, one wrong word, and Marcus and Zoe pay the price." The threat hung in the air between us, heavy as a storm cloud. Ms. Patel's office smelled of cinnamon and paper. She was nothing like Miss Winters. Her eyes were sharp, missing nothing as they cataloged my unwashed hair, the bruise blooming on my arm where Reagan had gripped me. "Your foster sister Holly has been very concerned," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "She says you have evidence of mistreatment." Reagan sat beside me, her hand resting on my knee, a warning disguised as affection. "There's been a misunderstanding," she said smoothly. "My foster children sometimes exaggerate normal discipline. You know how teenagers can be." Ms. Patel's gaze never left my face. "I'd like to speak with you alone," she told me. Reagan's fingers dug into my knee. "I don't think that's necessary. We're very open with each other, aren't we?" I nodded automatically. The response struck into me over years, but something in Ms. Patel's unwavering attention gave me courage. "Actually," I said, my voice barely audible, "I would like to talk privately." Reagan's face hardened, but with Ms. Patel watching, she couldn't object. As soon as the door closed behind her, words tumbled out of me about the basement, the bruises, Holly's treatment, the phone Reagan had confiscated. Mr. Patel listened without interruption, taking notes in quick, sharp strokes. "I believe you," she said when I finished, 3 words I'd never heard from an adult in authority. "And I'm going to help you, just like I helped Holly." She explained that she'd been investigating Reagan since Holly's case crossed her desk. My testimony was the final piece she needed. "You won't go back there today," she promised. "I've already arranged emergency placement." Relief washed over me, followed immediately by panic. But Marcus and Zoe. Reagan will punish them when she finds out. Miss Patel's expression softened. We're removing all of you today. Right now, police officers are at your house collecting Marcus, Zoe, and Jasmine. The reality of freedom hit me like a wave. No more walking on eggshells. No more bruises from chores. No more moldy closet or silent dinners. I was finally escaping Reagan's shadow. Miss Patel's promise hung in the air between us. Fragile but beautiful. A real home. Freedom from Reagan. It sounded too good to be true. The next morning, Holly and I sat in Miss Patel's office while she explained what would happen next. The walls were covered with children's drawings. Thank you notes from kids she'd actually helped. I wondered if one day my picture might hang there too. Reagan is currently being investigated, Miss Patel explained, her voice steady and professional. The files we found are extremely concerning. She's been tracking former foster children for years, documenting their failures, as she calls them. Holly nodded grimly. I told you, she's obsessed. What about Marcus and Zoe? I asked, my stomach knotting with worry. And Jasmine? They'd been so quiet, so careful to stay under Reagan's radar. Now they were caught in the middle of this too. They're safe, Miss Patel assured me. They've been placed temporarily with one of our emergency families. Marcus has already started talking about Reagan's behavior. Zoe is still too frightened to say much, and Jasmine is staying close to her. I wasn't surprised. Zoe was only 9, the youngest of us. She'd learned to make herself invisible whenever Reagan was in one of her moods. Unfortunately, Miss Patel continued, her expression growing more serious. Reagan is claiming that you and Holly conspired to make false accusations. She's painting herself as the victim of ungrateful teenagers. My heart sank. Of course, Reagan would twist everything around. She'd been doing it for years, making us believe we deserved her cruelty, that we were the broken ones. Will people believe her? I asked, my voice small. Some might, Miss Patel admitted. She's been a foster parent for 15 years. She knows how to present herself to authorities, but the evidence we found in her home tells a different story. And your testimonies, yours, Holly's, and now Marcus's, are powerful. Holly reached over and squeezed my hand. We're not alone anymore, she whispered. Ms. Patel smiled at us. That's right. Now, about your placements. Holly, your current foster mother, Elaine Wright, has expressed interest in becoming your permanent guardian. Holly's face lit up. Really? She wants to keep me? She speaks very highly of you, Ms. Patel said. Says you're the daughter she never had. I felt a pang of jealousy, then immediately hated myself for it. Holly deserved happiness more than anyone I knew. And me? I asked hesitantly. Ms. Patel's smile faltered slightly. We're still working on finding the right placement for you. In the meantime, you'll stay with Diane. I nodded, trying to hide my disappointment. Of course, it wouldn't be as easy for me. I wasn't brave and outspoken like Holly. I was the quiet one, the one who faded into the background. What about Reagan? Holly asked, her voice hardening. What's stopping her from coming after us? There's a temporary restraining order in place, Ms. Patel explained. She's not allowed to contact either of you, or Marcus, Zoe, and Jasmine. But as we left Ms. Patel's office, I couldn't shake the feeling that a restraining order was just a piece of paper. It wouldn't stop Reagan if she was determined enough. The next few days fell into a strange rhythm. I stayed with Diane, who was kind but distant, a professional doing her job well. I went to school, where Bailey stuck to my side like glue, fiercely protective. And every afternoon, I met with Holly at a small cafe near Ms. Patel's office, where we compared notes and tried to make sense of our new reality. Elaine wants to redecorate my room, Holly told me one afternoon, her eyes bright with excitement. She says I can pick any color I want. I smiled, genuinely happy for her despite the knot of envy in my stomach. That's amazing, Holly. What about Diane? Is she treating you okay? I shrugged. She's nice. Make sure I have everything I need. But it's temporary, you know? She's not looking to adopt a teenager. Holly's face softened with sympathy. The right place is out there for you. I know it. I nodded, not quite believing it, but not wanting to dampen her spirits. Have you heard anything about Reagan? Holly's expression darkened. Elaine says she's been calling the agency non-stop, demanding that they return Marcus and Zoe to her. Claims they were never abused, that it was just you and me who were troubled. I felt a chill run through me. What if they believe her? They won't, Holly said firmly. Ms. Patel has the files, remember? And our testimonies. And the photos of your bruises. I wasn't so sure. Reagan had fooled the system for 15 years. What was stopping her from doing it again? That night I had trouble sleeping in Diane's spare bedroom. Every creak of the house made me tense, half expecting Reagan to burst through the door. Around midnight, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You think you're safe? Think again. I know everything about you. About Holly. About your little friend Bailey. No one crosses me and gets away with it. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the phone. I knew I should tell Diane, call Ms. Patel, report the violation of the restraining order. But old habits die hard. I deleted the message, turned off my phone, and curled into a ball under the blankets, trying to make myself as small as possible. The next morning, I was a zombie at school. Bailey took one look at me and knew something was wrong. What happened? She demanded as we sat in the cafeteria, far from prying ears. I hesitated, then showed her my phone where I'd taken a screenshot of the message before deleting it. Bailey's eyes widened. Holy shut. You showed this to Ms. Patel, right? I looked down at my untouched lunch. Not yet. Are you kidding me? Bailey hissed. This is exactly what the restraining order is supposed to prevent. You need to report this. I know. I trailed off, unable to explain the paralyzing fear that had kept me silent. Bailey's expression softened. Look, I get that you're scared, but Reagan is counting on that fear to keep you quiet. Don't let her win. She was right. I knew she was right, but knowing and doing were two different things. After school, I went straight to Ms. Patel's office and showed her the message. Her face grew serious as she read it. This is a clear violation of the restraining order, she said, immediately picking up her phone. I'm calling the police right now. As she made the call, I sat there feeling oddly detached. Part of me had expected this, that reporting Reagan would change nothing, that she'd continue to haunt us no matter what the law said. They're sending an officer to take your statement, Ms. Patel said after hanging up, and they'll investigate where this message came from. I nodded mechanically. Will it make any difference? Ms. Patel looked at me with surprise. Of course it will. Each violation strengthens our case against her, but it doesn't stop her, I said quietly. She's still out there, still angry, still planning who knows what. Ms. Patel leaned forward, her eyes intense. Listen to me. Reagan thrives on making you feel powerless. Every time you stand up to her, every report, every statement, every piece piece of evidence. You take some of that power back. I wanted to believe her. I really did. The police officer who took my statement was a woman named Officer Moreau. She had kind eyes but a no-nonsense attitude that reminded me a little of Holly. We'll trace the number, she assured me. If it's Reagan, she'll face consequences for violating the order. And if it's not, I asked, what if she's using someone else's phone? Officer Moreau's expression was grim. Then we keep investigating. But you did the right thing by reporting it. Keep documenting everything. That night, I called Holly from Diane's landline, suddenly paranoid about using my cell phone. Reagan texted me last night, I told her, my voice low, even though Diane was watching TV in the living room, well out of earshot. What? Holly's voice sharpened with alarm. What did she say? I repeated the message, the words leaving a bitter taste in my mouth. She mentioned Bailey, Holly said, her voice tight with worry. That means she's watching you at school. The thought made my skin crawl. Or someone is watching for her. What did Ms. Patel say? She called the police. They're tracing the number. Holly was quiet for a moment. Good, but be careful, okay? Reagan doesn't make empty threats. After we hung up, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing. Holly was right. Reagan had always followed through on her promises, especially the cruel ones. The next day at school, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every unfamiliar face in the hallway, every car driving slowly past the school, was Reagan there, plotting her revenge. Bailey noticed my paranoia. You're jumping at shadows, she said as we walked to math class. Reagan can't get to you here. She got my number somehow, I pointed out. And she mentioned you in her text. She knows we're friends. Bailey's confident expression faltered slightly. Okay, that's creepy. But still, what can she actually do? There's a restraining order. A restraining order is just a piece of paper, I said. It doesn't create a magical force field. No, but it means she goes to jail if she comes near you, Bailey countered. I get that you're worried, but you can't live your life looking over your shoulder forever. She was right, of course. But fear isn't rational, and mine had been cultivated by years of Reagan's unpredictable cruelty. After school, I met Holly at our cafe. She looked troubled as I approached. What's wrong? I asked, sliding into the booth across from her. Elaine got a call today, Holly said, her voice low. Someone claiming to be from social services, asking all kinds of questions about me. When Elaine asked for their name and ID number, they hung up. My stomach dropped. Reagan? Who else? She's trying to mess with my placement. Holly's hands curled into fists on the table. I'm not going to let her ruin this for me. Elaine is the first person who's ever really cared about me. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. We should tell Ms. Patel. Holly nodded. Already did. She's documenting everything. But she hesitated, biting her lip. But what? I'm worried about Marcus and Zoe, she admitted. And Jasmine. They're in emergency placement just like you. If Reagan is trying to get them back, the thought made me feel sick. Marcus was 13, old enough to speak up for himself. But Zoe was so young, so easily intimidated. And Jasmine, though 12, had always been the most compliant of us all. We need to make sure they're safe, I said, surprising myself with my own determination. Holly looked at me with something like pride. That's what I was thinking. Ms. Patel won't tell us where they are. Confidentiality and all that. But I bet Bailey could find out. Bailey had connections everywhere. Her mom worked in the school district's administrative office, and she knew people who knew people. If anyone could find Marcus, Zoe, and Jasmine, it was her. The next day, I approached Bailey with our plan. She listened intently, her expression growing more serious by the second. Let me get this straight, she said when I finished. You want me to use my mom's access to find out where 3 foster kids are placed, so you can what? Check on them? Warn them about Reagan? Put like that. It sounded ridiculous. Intrusive even. I just need to make sure they're okay, I said weakly. Bailey sighed. Look, I get that you're worried, but this isn't the way. If Reagan is trying to manipulate the system to get them back, the answer isn't for us to manipulate it too. Her words stung, but I knew she was right. Then what do? We work with the system, not against it, Bailey said firmly. Talk to Ms. Patel. Tell her your concerns. She's on your side, remember? So that afternoon, instead of meeting Holly at the cafe, we both went to Ms. Patel's office. She listened patiently as we explained our fears about Marcus, Zoe, and Jasmine. I understand your concern, she said when we finished, and I appreciate you coming to me instead of trying to find them yourselves. Holly and I exchanged a guilty glance. Marcus, Zoe, and Jasmine are safe, Ms. Patel continued. Their foster parents are aware of the situation with Reagan and have been instructed to be extra vigilant. We're not going to let them go back to her. But what if she finds them? I pressed. Like she found me and Holly? Ms. Patel's expression grew serious. That's a valid concern. The truth is, Reagan knows how the system works. She knows which agencies place children, which emergency homes we use. She's also maintained connections with former colleagues who might share information. That's why we've taken extra precautions with all of you. What kind of precautions? Holly asked. For one, none of you are registered in the main system right now. Your placements are being handled directly through me, with paper records only. And the police have been notified to increase patrols near your homes. It was something, at least. But I couldn't shake the feeling that Reagan was always one step ahead of us. That night, as I lay in bed at Diane's house, my phone buzzed with another text from an unknown number, different from the last one. I know where Marcus and Zoe are. I'll have them back soon. And then I'm coming for you and Holly. Sleep tight. My hands trembled as I immediately called Ms. Patel, not caring that it was nearly midnight. She answered on the third ring, her voice groggy with sleep. Reagan texted again, I said without preamble. She says she knows where Marcus and Zoe are. Ms. Patel was instantly alert. I'm calling the police right now. Then I'm going to check on Marcus, Zoe, and Jasmine personally. Should I tell Holly? Not yet, Ms. Patel said. Let me verify that they're safe first. I don't want to cause unnecessary panic. After we hung up, I sat awake for hours, jumping at every sound outside my window. When my alarm went off at 6 a.m., I hadn't slept at all. At school, I was a zombie, moving through the hallways on autopilot. Bailey took one look at me and pulled me into an empty classroom. What happened? She demanded. I showed her the text. Her face paled. Have you heard from Miss Patel? Are they okay? I shook my head. She said she'd call after checking on them, but I haven't heard anything. Bailey pulled out her phone. I'm calling my mom. She can check if there were any incidents reported last night involving foster children. While she made the call, I paced the empty classroom, my anxiety mounting with each step. What if Reagan had actually found them? What if she'd taken them? It would be my fault for not doing more to protect them. Mom says there's nothing in the system, Bailey reported after hanging up. No incidents with foster children last night. Relief washed over me, followed quickly by doubt. That doesn't mean their safe, Reagan could be planning something. Or she could be bluffing, Bailey pointed out, trying to scare you. If that was the goal, it was working. By lunchtime, I still hadn't heard from Ms. Patel. Unable to stand the suspense any longer, I called her office from the school's main office phone. Ms. Patel is out of the office today, her assistant informed me. Can I take a message? My heart raced. It's urgent. I need to know if Marcus, Zoe, and Jasmine are okay. There was a pause on the line. I'm sorry, but I can't discuss other cases with you. Ms. Patel will have to call you back when she returns. I hung up, frustration and fear churning in my stomach. Where was Ms. Patel? Why hadn't she called me back? After school, I met Holly at our cafe. She looked as worried as I felt. Elaine got another call, she said without preamble. Same person claiming to be from social services, asking if I was adjusting well or showing any troubling behaviors. Did Elaine tell Ms. Patel? Holly nodded. Left a message with her assistant, but she hasn't called back yet. I told Holly about the text I'd received and Ms. Patel's promise to check on Marcus, Zoe, and Jasmine. And you haven't heard anything? Holly asked, her brow furrowed with concern. I shook my head. I'm really worried, Holly. What if something happened to them? What if something happened to Ms. Patel? Holly reached across the table and grabbed my hand. Don't go there. Ms. Patel is probably just busy dealing with the situation, and they're probably fine. But what if they're not? I insisted. Reagan said she knows where they are. What if she wasn't bluffing? Holly was quiet for a moment, her expression troubled. We need more information, and I think I know how to get it. She pulled out her phone and dialed a number. Elaine, it's me. I need a favor. I listened as Holly explained the situation to her foster mother. Elaine, it turned out, had been a foster parent for over a decade and knew many of the other emergency placement families in the area. She's going to make some calls, Holly said after hanging up. See if she can find out where Marcus, Zoe, and Jasmine are placed without raising any red flags. I felt a surge of gratitude toward Elaine. Will she get in trouble for that? Holly shrugged. Maybe, but she says she cares more about keeping kids safe than following bureaucratic rules. I wished Diane felt the same way. She was kind enough, but always careful to maintain professional boundaries. She would never bend the rules for me the way Elaine was doing for Holly. An hour later, Holly's phone rang. She answered immediately, her face tense as she listened to Elaine. When she hung up, she looked pale. Marcus, Zoe, and Jasmine were moved last night, she said. Emergency transfer to a new placement. No one knows why. My stomach dropped. Reagan found them. We don't know that, Holly said, but her voice lacked conviction. Maybe Ms. Patel moved them as a precaution after your text. Then why wouldn't she call to tell me they're safe? We decided to go to Ms. Patel's office together, demand answers in person. But when we arrived, the receptionist told us Ms. Patel had called in sick today and wouldn't be back until tomorrow. That's not like her, Holly muttered as we left the building. She never misses work. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Another unknown number. I warned you. Marcus, Zoe, and Jasmine are back where they belong. You're next. I showed Holly, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. We need to call the police, Holly said immediately. This is a direct threat. But before I could dial, my phone buzzed again with a call from Diane. Where are you? She demanded, her voice tight with worry. You were supposed to come straight home after school. I'm with Holly, I explained. We went to Ms. Patel's office to ask about. Come home right now, Diane interrupted. There's been an incident. The police are here. I felt a chill run through me. What kind of incident? Someone broke into the house, Diane said, her voice dropping to a whisper. They went through your room, left a message. What message? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Just come home, Diane said, and be careful. Holly insisted on coming with me. We took the bus to Diane's neighborhood, both of us scanning every face, every car, looking for signs of Reagan. When we arrived, there was a police car parked outside Diane's modest house. Inside, Officer Moreau was taking photographs of my bedroom. The sight made me freeze in the doorway. My few belongings had been scattered across the floor. The sheets had been torn off the bed. And on the wall, written in what looked like red lipstick, were the words, "You can't hide." Are you okay? Holly whispered, squeezing my hand. I nodded mechanically, though I felt anything but okay. This was Reagan's work. I was sure of it. She'd been in this room, touched my things, left her mark. The violation made me feel sick. Officer Moreau looked up as we entered. Ah, there you are. We've been trying to reach Ms. Patel, but she's not answering her phone. She called in sick today, I said, my voice sounding distant to my own ears. Officer Moreau frowned. That's concerning. Given the timing of all this, do you think Reagan did this? Holly asked bluntly. We're not jumping to conclusions, Officer Moreau said diplomatically, but given the restraining order and the threatening messages you've received, she's certainly a person of interest. Diane appeared in the doorway, her face drawn with stress. I've packed your things, she told me. The ones that weren't disturbed. Officer Moreau says you can't stay here tonight. Where am I supposed to go? I asked, panic rising in my throat. We're arranging emergency placement, Officer Moreau said. Somewhere secure. She can stay with us, Holly said suddenly. With me and Elaine, right? She looked at Officer Moreau hopefully. The officer hesitated. That would need to be approved by Ms. Patel, and given that we can't reach her, please, Holly pressed. Reagan knows about this place now. She might know about other emergency placements too, but she doesn't know where Elaine lives. We've been careful about that. Officer Moreau considered this, then nodded slowly. I'll need to speak with Elaine directly, and we'll need to increase patrols in her neighborhood, but it might be the safest option right now. Relief washed over me. The thought of staying with Holly and Elaine in a home where I was actually wanted was the first good thing to happen all day. While Officer Moreau called Elaine, Holly helped me gather the few belongings that hadn't been destroyed in Reagan's rampage. As we worked, she leaned in close. I'm worried about Ms. Patel, she whispered. It's not like her to disappear like this, especially not with everything that's happening. I nodded, the same fear gnawing at my stomach. And what about Marcus, Zoe, and Jasmine? If Reagan really has them, Holly's expression hardened with determination. We'll find them. All of them. Reagan's not going to win this time. I wanted to believe her, but as I looked around at my violated room, at the threatening message on the wall, I couldn't help but wonder if Reagan was already winning. Officer Moreau drove us to Elaine's house in her patrol car, constantly checking her mirrors for any sign we were being followed. Holly sat beside me in the back seat, her hand firmly gripping mine as we sped through darkening streets. I've arranged for an unmarked car to patrol the neighborhood tonight, Officer Moreau explained as we pulled into a quiet cul-de-sac, and I've flagged this address for immediate response if there's any suspicious activity. Elaine was waiting at the door, her kind face etched with worry. She pulled Holly into a tight hug before turning to me with open arms. I hesitated for just a second before stepping into her embrace, the unfamiliar unfamiliar feeling of maternal comfort washing over me. "You're safe here," she whispered, and for the first time in days, I almost believed it. While Officer Moreau and Elaine discussed security measures in the kitchen, Holly showed me to the spare room across from hers. It was small but cozy, with actual curtains and a bedspread that matched. No mold in sight. "Bathroom's down the hall," Holly said, setting my bag on the bed. "And Elaine always keeps the fridge stocked, so help yourself whenever you're hungry." The normalcy of it all felt surreal after everything that had happened. "Have you heard anything about Ms. Patel?" I asked. Holly shook her head. "Elaine's been trying to reach her too." "Nothing." My phone buzzed, and I flinched instinctively before checking it. It was Bailey. "Mom says there's been a report filed about 3 foster kids being removed from emergency placement without proper authorization. Has to be Marcus, Zoe, and Jasmine." I showed Holly, my hands trembling. "Reagan has them. She actually took them." Holly's face hardened with determination. "We need to find out where she'd take them." "Back to her house?" I suggested. "Too obvious. The police would check there first." Holly paced the small room. "What about that cabin she always talked about? The one she said she'd take us to if we ever earned it?" I felt a chill run through me. Reagan had mentioned that cabin countless times, always as some mythical reward we'd never be good enough to see. I thought that was just something she made up to dangle in front of us. No, it's real. I found the deed once when I was cleaning her office. It's somewhere up in the mountains, about 2 hours from here. I stared at her. "You think she took Marcus, Zoe, and Jasmine there?" "It makes sense. Isolated, off the grid. No one would think to look there because technically it belongs to her brother, not her." We brought our theory to Officer Moreau, who immediately got on the phone with her department. While she made calls, Elaine made us dinner. Actual homemade lasagna that we ate at an actual dining table, not standing at the counter or on the floor like at Reagan's. "They're sending officers to check the cabin," Officer Moreau informed us after dinner, "but it'll take time to get the exact location from property records." "What about Ms. Patel?" I asked. "Have you found her?" Officer Moreau's expression grew serious. "We've done a welfare check at her home. She wasn't there, but there were signs of a disturbance. We're treating her as a missing person now." The room seemed to tilt around me. Reagan hadn't just taken Marcus, Zoe, and Jasmine. She'd done something to Ms. Patel too, the one adult who had finally believed us, who was trying to help us. "This is my fault," I whispered, sinking onto the couch. "If I hadn't tried to escape, if I just stayed quiet." "Don't," Holly said fiercely, sitting beside me. "This is Reagan's fault. Only Reagan's. She's the one breaking laws, hurting people." Officer Moreau nodded in agreement. "Holly's right, and we're going to find her and hold her accountable." After Officer Moreau left, promising to call with any updates, Elaine insisted we try to get some sleep, but as I lay in the unfamiliar bed, staring at the ceiling, sleep felt impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Reagan's message scrawled on my bedroom wall: "You can't hide." Around midnight, my door creaked open. I sat bolt upright, heart pounding, before realizing it was just Holly. "Can't sleep either?" she whispered, perching on the edge of my bed. I shook my head. "Keep thinking about Marcus, Zoe, and Jasmine, and Ms. Patel." Holly was quiet for a moment. "I've been thinking, we know where the cabin is roughly. What if we—" "No," I interrupted, already seeing where she was going. "We can't just go looking for them ourselves. It's too dangerous. The police don't know exactly where to look," Holly argued. "But I remember details from the deed. It was off some road called Pine Creek. Had a weird address, 4242 or something. Even if we found it, what then?" "Reagan's dangerous, Holly. You know that better than anyone." Holly's face was set with the same determination I'd always admired and feared. "We don't confront her. We just locate the cabin, then call the police with the exact location." It was a terrible idea. Reckless. Potentially disastrous. But as I thought about Marcus, Zoe, and Jasmine, and Ms. Patel, I found myself nodding slowly. "We'd need transportation," I said, "and we can't tell Elaine. She'd never let us go." Holly grinned, the moonlight catching the familiar spark in her eyes. "Bailey has her license, and her mom's car." The next morning, we told Elaine we were meeting Bailey at the library to study. She seemed hesitant, but eventually agreed when we promised to check in every hour and be home by dinner. Bailey picked us up a block away, her mom's sedan idling at the curb. "This is insane," she said as we climbed in. "You know that, right?" "We just need to find the cabin," Holly explained from the back seat. "Then we'll call Officer Moreau with the location." Bailey sighed, but put the car in drive. "Fine, but we're not getting out of the car when we find it. Deal?" We both nodded, though I caught the flicker of reservation in Holly's eyes. The drive into the mountains was tense and mostly silent. Bailey focused on the winding roads, while Holly navigated using a combination of her memory and Google Maps. I kept checking my phone, half expecting another threatening text from Reagan, but there was nothing. "There," Holly said suddenly, pointing to a weathered sign. "Pine Creek Road." Bailey turned onto a narrow dirt road that wound deeper into the forest. The trees grew thicker, casting the road in shadow despite the midday sun. My heart pounded harder with every bump and turn. "Look for 4242, Holly instructed, leaning forward between the front seats. We crept along the road, scanning for address markers. Most of the properties were set far back from the road, only visible as dirt driveways disappearing into the trees. "There!" I spotted a rusty mailbox with faded numbers. 4242. Bailey slowed to a stop across from the long driveway. Through the trees, we could just make out the edge of a small cabin about 100 yards back. "Is that it?" Bailey whispered, as if Reagan might hear us from inside. Holly nodded, her face pale. "That's it." "Okay, we found it," Bailey said, already reaching for her phone. "Now we call Officer Moreau and get the hell out of here." But before she could dial, a car appeared in the rearview mirror, coming up fast behind us. "Drive!" Holly hissed. "That's Reagan's car!" Bailey slammed on the gas, the sedan fishtailing on the dirt road before lurching forward. The car behind us accelerated too, closing the distance. "She's following us!" I cried, twisting in my seat to look back. "Hold on," Bailey warned, taking a sharp turn onto another dirt road. The car skidded, nearly hitting a tree before straightening out. Reagan's car made the turn too, still in pursuit. We bounced along the rough road, the sedan not built for this terrain. A sharp rock hit the undercarriage with a sickening crunch. "We need to call for help," I said, fumbling for my phone, but there was no signal this deep in the mountains. Suddenly, the road ended in a small clearing. Bailey slammed on the brakes, the car sliding to a stop inches from a steep drop-off. "Shh," she swore, throwing the car into reverse. But it was too late. Reagan's car blocked our exit, and she was already getting out, moving toward toward us with purposeful strides. "Stay in the car," Bailey ordered, locking the doors. "I'm going to try to back around her," but as she shifted gears, the engine sputtered and died. "No, no, no!" Bailey turned the key frantically, but the engine wouldn't catch. Reagan approached, her face twisted in a smile that made my skin crawl. She rapped on my window with her knuckles. "Found you," she mouthed. Holly reached across me and pressed the lock button again, though we all knew how useless it was. Reagan circled the car, trying each door handle, her smile never faltering. "We need to run," Holly whispered. "Into the woods. Split up. She can't chase all of us." Bailey nodded, her hands shaking. "On 3. 1, 2. Reagan suddenly reappeared at my window, something heavy in her hand. Before I could react, she smashed it against the glass. The window cracked, but held. "3!" Bailey shouted. We burst out of the car on the opposite side from Reagan, sprinting toward the trees. I heard Reagan cursing behind us, then the sound of her footsteps in pursuit. "Split up!" Holly yelled as we hit the tree line. I veered right, Bailey went left, and Holly continued straight ahead. I ran blindly through the forest, branches whipping my face, roots threatening to trip me with every step. Behind me, I heard Reagan's voice, growing fainter as I put distance between us. "You can't hide forever!" I kept running until my lungs burned and my legs threatened to give out. Finally, I collapsed behind a fallen tree, gasping for breath. The forest was quiet except for the pounding of my heart and the distant call of birds. After what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes, I heard a twig snap nearby. I froze, not daring to breathe. "It's me," came Holly's whispered voice. "Are you okay?" I nearly sobbed with relief as she crouched beside me. "Where's Bailey?" "I don't know. I lost sight of her." Holly's face was scratched from branches, a small trickle of blood running down her cheek. "But I saw something while I was running. There's another cabin about half a mile that way." She pointed deeper into the forest. "I think I saw movement inside. Marcus, Zoe, and Jasmine," I whispered hopefully. "Maybe. We need to check." Every instinct told me to stay hidden, to wait for help, but the thought of Marcus, Zoe, and Jasmine, and possibly Ms. Patel, trapped in that cabin, overrode my fear. We moved carefully through the woods, staying low and quiet. The cabin Holly had spotted was smaller than Reagan's, more of a hunting blind than a proper building. As we got closer, I could see a padlock on the door. "Look," Holly whispered, pointing to a small window. "Someone's in there." We crept closer until we could peer through the dirty glass. What I saw made my heart stop. Ms. Patel was sitting on the floor, her hands tied in front of her. Beside her were Marcus, Zoe, and Jasmine, huddled together, their faces tear-streaked but unharmed. "We need to get them out," I said, looking around for something to break the padlock. Holly was already picking up a heavy rock. "Stand back." She smashed the rock against the padlock once, twice, 3 times before it finally broke. We pulled the door open to find Ms. Patel struggling to her feet, her eyes wide with disbelief. "How did you—" she began, but I was already working on the ropes around her wrists. "Reagan's here," Holly explained urgently, helping Zoe to her feet. "We need to go now." "Bailey's still out there somewhere," I added, finally freeing Ms. Patel's hands. Ms. Patel rubbed her wrists, wincing. "Reagan caught me at my house yesterday. She was looking for you two. When I wouldn't tell her where you were, she brought me here." "Did she hurt you?" Holly asked, checking Marcus for injuries. "Nothing serious, but she's not stable. She kept talking about teaching you all a lesson and bringing her family back together." Ms. Patel shuddered. "We need to get these children to safety." We left the cabin, moving as quickly and quietly as possible with Zoe half asleep in Ms. Patel's arms. The forest seemed to stretch endlessly in every direction. "Do you know which way leads back to the road?" I asked Holly. She pointed uncertainly. "I think that way, but—" Well, came Reagan's voice from behind us. The whole family together again. We spun around to find Reagan standing there, Bailey in front of her with an arm twisted behind her back. Bailey's face was pale with fear, her eyes silently pleading. "Let her go," Holly demanded, stepping forward. "She has nothing to do with this." Reagan laughed, the sound echoing unnaturally through the trees. "Everyone has something to do with this. Your little friend here helped you escape me, just like Ms. Patel. Just like you helped each other. The police know where we are," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "They're on their way right now." "Liar," Reagan hissed, tightening her grip on Bailey's arm. Bailey whimpered in pain. "No one knows you're here. No one's coming to save you." "That's where you're wrong." The new voice made us all turn. Officer Moreau stepped out from behind a tree, her GN trained on Reagan. Behind her were 2 more officers, moving to flank Reagan on either side. "Let the girl go, Ms. Lefebvre," Officer Moreau commanded. "It's over." Reagan's face contorted with rage. For a terrible moment, I thought she might hurt Bailey out of spite, but then her shoulders slumped, and she released her grip. Bailey immediately ran to us, collapsing into my arms with a sob. "Reagan Lefebvre, you're under arrest," Officer Moreau said, holstering her weapon as the other officers moved in to handcuff Reagan. "For kidnapping, child endangerment, violation of a restraining order, and about a dozen other charges we'll sort out at the station." As they led Reagan away, she turned to look at us one last time. "This isn't over," she said, her voice eerily calm. "You'll always be my children." "No," Holly said firmly. "We never were." The aftermath was a blur of police statements, hospital checkups, and social services interviews. Ms. Patel, despite her ordeal, insisted on personally handling our cases. Marcus, Zoe, and Jasmine were placed with a new foster family, one Mr. Patel had personally vetted. Bailey's mom grounded her for a month but secretly told her she was proud of her bravery. And me? I moved in with Holly and Elaine permanently. The spare room became my room, with curtains I picked out myself, and a door I could lock if I wanted to. Reagan was denied bail and awaited trial from a cell, somewhere she couldn't hurt any more children. 3 months later, Holly and I sat on the porch swing at Elaine's house, our house now, watching the sunset. School had started again, and for the first time, I wasn't dreading going home afterward. "Do you ever think about her?" I asked quietly. Holly knew who I meant without asking. "Sometimes. Not because I miss her, but because I'm still understanding how much damage she did, how much I'm still unlearning." I nodded, feeling the same complicated mix of emotions. I keep expecting to get in trouble for small things. Like yesterday when I dropped that glass, I actually braced myself for punishment. "It takes time," Holly said, bumping her shoulder against mine. "But we're getting there, and we have each other." From inside, Elaine called that dinner was ready. As we stood to go in, I took one last look at the darkening sky, feeling something I hadn't felt in years, maybe ever. Safe. I felt safe. Not because the danger was gone completely. Reagan still had supporters, people who believed her lies about troubled teens making false accusations. The trial was still months away, and we'd have to testify. But for the first time, I wasn't facing it alone. I had Holly, who understood exactly what I'd been through. I had Elaine, who showed me daily what real parental love looked like. I had Bailey, whose friendship never wavered despite the danger it put her in. And I had Ms. Patel, who had become the advocate we always needed. As we sat down to dinner, a normal, peaceful dinner with conversation instead of criticism, I realized something important. Reagan had tried to make us believe we were nothing without her, that we needed her approval, her family, her twisted version of love. But here we were, building something better, something real, something she could never take away from us again.